This is the starter B. Mirrors, securely mounted with nuts and bolts. It's not missing or damaged. No cracks, no chips, no illegal stickers. They are set to me. The door, I'm checking the hinges. Checking that there's no cracks. I'm checking the door latch. 1 and 2. The door handle and latch both work. It's not sagging. I would check the electrical lines going through to see that they are not bent, cracked, or pinched. The hinges, I would check that there's no missing nuts and bolts, no illegal welds, held on with a clevis key and a carter pin, not missing or broken. The window, you can roll it down. You don't have to roll it down all the way. You're checking that it's not broken, no illegal stickers. Checking the door handle, that it's not loose, securely mounted with nuts and bolts. Weather stripping, slightly damaged, but it is properly mounted. Steps, you're checking that there's no debris, trash, mud, diesel. They're secured to the tank with bolts. No illegal welds, no cracks. My 3 anti-static straps with the rubbers are not welded, illegally welded, cracked, or missing. The tank, you're looking for 4 leaks. 1 where the bolts are, 2 at the overflow tube, cap, which you will open it up and show them that there is a chain in the gasket, and the overall tank. You're looking for illegal welds, cracks. They are held to the frame of the truck with a bracket, nuts and bolts, clevis key and a carter pin to a bracket which is bolted to the frame of the truck. It's not missing or damaged. I have clear or white cab markers. I have my emergency line, my service line. They are both connected to the back of the cab with a connector. I'm checking for abrasions, bulges, cuts, any leaks, and they are secured to the trailer with a glad hand. The glad hand, you don't have to open it up, but you tell them how you would check it. You'd pull it off, look at the grommet, make sure it's not ripped or torn, check it to see if it has any water or oil in there. It is secured to a bracket to the front of the trailer. I'm checking all my hoses, connectors, all the way down. And I will check this glad hand the same way I did this one. Junction box, I'm checking that it's securely bolted. It's not missing, illegally welded and damaged. It holds all the electrical lines that come down through here. And I will do this one the same way I did this. No abrasion, bulges, or cuts, no leaks, no frays or cuts on the electrical wires. The electrical wire female end is plugged into the socket. I'm checking the latch, that it works. I'm looking for frays or cuts. There's a rub spot there. Looking for pinches, any bubbles that 2 of the wires have broken. And it is secured to the back of this cab with a connector. So I'm checking all my hoses for abrasion, bulges, and cuts. All the connectors are securely mounted. The electrical line, check it all the way down. No frays, no cuts, and it goes into this harness. The air lines, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, securely mounted at both ends, as well as up here. And it goes on to the underneath. Now you do not have to pull it out for the test, but you would tell them how you would check it. You would pull it out, look to see if there's any debris in the female end, and you would check the pins on the junction box that they are not bent or damaged or missing. And you would do, if this had an electrical line socket like this one, you would do that end on the cab of the truck the same way you would do it on this one here. The drive shaft, I'm checking the U-joints, that they are not missing, cracked, illegally welded, debris in there. The frame and cross members, if I didn't do A, I would do the frame and cross members here are not illegally welded, cracked, missing, rusted through, and all the nuts and bolts are in place. And I would do from here to the front of the truck to the rear of the truck the same as I did here. The exhaust is part of B, and it is securely mounted with brackets, nuts, and bolts to the cab. None are missing or damaged. I'm looking for soot and rust, indicate leaks. No missing nuts and bolts, and it's slightly bent into the cab, but it is not causing any problems with it. My air tanks, one there, one there. Securely mounted with brackets, which is nut and bolted to the frame. I hear no audible leaks. I would check all my fittings and connectors. I would check all the lines that I could reach and feel that there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, no audible leaks, and the wires are not frayed or torn, and everything is secured at both ends with clamps, connectors, fittings. Alright, the brake chamber. It is a double brake chamber. It has one pressed on O-ring and retention ring, and one clamped on retention ring and O-ring. The nut and bolt is not missing. I hear no audible leaks, no illegal welds, no cracks. Secured to the inner axle with a bracket, nut and bolt. Back behind it is the slack adjuster and push rod. Right back there. When the brakes are released, no more than 1 inch, the slack adjuster and push rod are secured with a clevis key and a carter pin. Then I have my spring mount, securely mounted with nuts and bolts. No illegal welds, no cracks, no rust throughs. The leaf springs themselves are not shifted, bent, scissored, illegally welded, and they are held onto the axle with 2 U-bolts, which I would check that they are not missing, cracked, illegally welded, and then I would check that all the nuts are in place. The leaf springs are held on with the spring mount with a nut and bolt. Looking at the brake shoes, that they are securely mounted with nuts and bolts and springs. They're not missing, cracked, damaged. No oil or grease from the inner wheel to interfere with them. Also, you have to check the thickness of your brake shoes. The least they can be is 1/4 inch. If they're less than that, you will have to change them. The brake drum itself, I'm looking for a bluish color all the way around that indicate that it's got hot or overheated. Not missing, cracked, illegally welded, and is secured to the wheel and rim. The air lines going into the brake chamber, I would check that they are securely mounted at both ends with clamps or fittings or connectors. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, no leaks. I have my apron. I'm looking for waviness to indicate damage. No illegal welds, no cracks, no rust through. My skid plate and my apron, there's no gap. It should be properly greased. The rest of the 5th wheel, I would check that there's no illegal welds, cracks, rust through. and it is secured with the fifth wheel mounting bolt, that big round one, with 2 nuts and bolts and a clevis key or cartapie. The fifth wheel release handle is in the lock position. It is not bent, cracked, illegally welded. I'm also checking that my bars going to the locking jaws are secured with castle nut cotter pins. They're not bent, illegally welded, rusted through. And I would also check my spring, that it is securely mounted, not rusted, bent, or missing. This is a stationary fifth wheel. The pivot arm right here, it is securely welded to the platform. No illegal welds, it's not bent, rusted through, and the platform that it is secured to, there's no waviness to indicate damage, no illegal welds, no cracks. It is secured to the frame of the truck with nuts and bolts that are not missing or damaged. The grounding wire is in place, securely mounted with nuts and bolts. The inner wheel and rim, and the outer wheel and rim on the inside tire, and the wheel and rim on the inside, and the wheel and rim on the outside of the outer tire. Looking for no illegal welds, no cracks, no rust through, that the tires are beaded on there properly, no audible leaks. The tires, sidewalls, inner and outer, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. In between, there's no debris. It's spaced properly. Tires are not touching, meaning that they are flat. And you see no daylight in between the 2 rims. They should be evenly worn. The tire depth is 2/32. And if they ask you how you're going to check the air pressure, it's with a air gauge and the depth with a tread meter or a Lincoln penny upside down. The penny at the beard says he has plenty of tread, your tire does, and at his eyebrows you need to get them replaced. Okay? 100 pounds of pressure or manufacturer specs on the side. Checking all my lug nuts. Make sure that you touch every one of them and tell them that they are securely mounted. There's no rust to indicate looseness, no shininess for over torqued or looseness. Spacers, no illegal welds or cracks on them are missing. The hub, you're checking all the nuts, that they are present, not missing or damaged. Looking for rust. It should be at the proper manufacturer specs. And I'm looking for leaks around here and around each individual. Alright, now I have 2 metal valve stems securely mounted with a nut. They're not cracked. I hear no audible leaks. And the metal cap should be in place. Then you go to your shock. It's secured with a nut and bolt and a bracket to the frame. I see no illegal welds, cracks, leaks, and it is also secured to the leaf springs with a nut and bolt. The airbag, securely mounted with its brackets, no missing nuts and bolts. I hear no audible leaks, no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, no leaks. The torque arm in between the frame is securely mounted with nuts and bolts. It's not bent, broken, cracked, no illegal welds. Then I'm going to my fifth wheel locking jaws. Are around the shank of the kingpin. And you see no gap in between the jaws. And from where I'm sitting, I see no damage. Should be properly greased. The kingpin, you would check before you go under any trailer. It's not missing, damaged, illegally welded, cracked. And you check around where the fifth wheel would set, that there's no illegal welds, no cracks, no waviness to indicate damage. Properly greased. We are looking at the lights. There's a left and right turn signal, four-way flasher, and brake light. They are red in color. They're not cracked, missing, dangling, and the seals are intact with either nuts and bolts, screws, or rivets. The backup light is not cracked. It's clear in color or white. Not missing, damaged, secured, and not dangling. Secured with the rubber gasket. Reflector 1 and 2, left and right. They are slightly damaged, but they're red in color, they're not missing or damaged, and the bolts are in place, here and there. Mud flap, securely mounted to the frame of the truck, no missing nuts and bolts. DOT tape is in place. The mud flap itself is not ripped, missing, and it is 6 to 8 inches off the ground. Secured with nuts and bolts. And this is the end of B. When you think you have everything outside, you say to the examiner, I'm ready to do my end cap. You pick up the chocks. Make sure on this set of chocks, you put the smaller one in front so it don't go through and bounce on the tank. Okay? The examiner will go in and you come out. If your hood is open, you say clear loud enough to let everybody hear. You hang on with both hands, and if you have to, bunny hop. Sometimes they will close this side for you, but it's your responsibility to make sure it is closed and locked before you go out the yard.